Hey guys, what's going on? It's TZ Champ here, and oh, different camera angle, huh? Yeah, I'm recording from my phone today. So I put out a poll on Twitter asking if I should do a review of Lightfall, and a whopping 2 of you responded and said yes. So I'm gonna make it anyway. But before we get started, I just want to let everybody know the general background that's going on right now with Lightfall. So Lightfall is currently been out for a little over 48 hours, if that. No, not even. It's not even 48 hours yet. It's been out for over 24 hours, but not 2 days yet. I've completed the campaign. I have done none of the seasonal activities. I have done none of the other grinding and the farming and stuff that you can do yet. I have strictly just stayed with the campaign. So I decided to do a little bit of a rating of the game. I came up with a system. It's got 4 categories worth of ratings, and then I average those together to get an overall score, and that's what I'm going to be giving it. So without further ado, we're just going to jump straight into this and stuff. Lightfall has received a ton, and I mean a ton, of hate. I don't necessarily see why. It's a good campaign. Like let's not act like it's terrible. The campaign itself is good. Now some of the things that they've added, maybe not the best. And some people have some issues with some of the stuff they've added, some of the stuff they took away. There's a lot, and it all comes down to just personal feelings and stuff like that. But for one, I have less than 2,000 hours in the game. I have around 1,400, somewhere around there. So I'm not super big into the game like a lot of top streamers are, pushing like 5,000, 10,000 hours. You never know. So I'm kind of towards the bottom, but I'm a little bit more into the game than, a regular casual player might be. So with that being said, my personal opinions may be swayed in certain directions where other people's might be swayed in different directions. I'm also terrible at PvP, so my opinions on PvP might not be as, well liked as people who love PvP. So there's a lot that goes into that. So I just wanted to talk about that for a second and just get that out of the way and address right now. So, how good is Lightfall? You can say you're thinking about buying it, but you just don't know, or you used to play Destiny and you're wanting to come back to it, and you're just trying to figure out, like how good is it? I will objectively say, from the standpoint of somebody who likes Destiny and loves playing it, Lightfall is pretty good. But it's not the best. So let's just start with my categories, and then I'll talk and break those down a little bit further as to why I gave them the scores that I did. So story/narrative. So everybody is familiar with Destiny, and Bungie's doing a great job at doing story and narratives, usually, most of the time, apart from their seasonal content, which has just become repetitive. Usually their big expansions have a really good story and narrative along with it. They missed the ball on this one. So I played it the first time around and I streamed it, and I didn't have any complaints about it. In fact, I said it was fun. I was loving it. It was a blast. But after being able to sit here and kind of just think about it, and I went throughout all today and I watched other people's streams playing it. I've looked at other people's replies and see what they were saying about it, and then that helped me kind of like, yeah, I can see their point. I can see where they're coming from here. I can see, yeah, I see that, or nah, they might be missing the ball on that one. I don't think it's that bad, stuff like that. The writing for this story was not good. I'm just going to be honest. The campaign itself was good. It was fun. It was action-packed, but it was too short. There was 8 missions total, I believe, and you ran through them so fast you almost felt like they weren't even missions. So, I mean, you just complete it very quickly. And the entire campaign is heavily focused on the new subclass Strand. It's almost like you're just training literally the entire time to learn how to use it. And they give you very unrealistic cooldown reduction so that your super comes back instantly, your abilities come back instantly, everything comes back instantly. But once you unlock Strand as a subclass, which you don't do until you beat the game, by the way, you have ridiculous cooldowns that are just unreal and make it almost lackluster. And half the fragments and aspects are locked behind the raid because they felt like Strand was going to be too strong when the raid released, so they locked a bunch of the aspects and fragments so that the raid would be harder to complete. Personally, I don't think Strand stands up to the other subclasses. Now, is it fun to use? Yeah. Is it going to be fun to use in normal everyday content? Probably not. Just your melee. First of all, for those who do not know, Strand's grapple hook takes the place of your grenade. So you have no grenade as long as you're using the grapple hook, and instead you get an empowered melee. Their entire goal for this expansion was to make the game harder. And they reduced the maximum amount of damage resistance you get from tier 10 resilience this year from 40% to 30%. But then they made a subclass that basically makes you have to get close to people and close to enemies. That's just not good. That's literally just the exact opposite of what you needed to do. So it has no restoration effects as well, by the way. So there's no way to heal yourself. There's no way to sustain your HP apart from a healing rift on a warlock. That is it. Everything else is just meh. It has a damage resistance thing only on Titan and Hunter. Warlocks do not get it. Or at least if they do get it, it's on an aspect and stuff that I haven't unlocked yet. But as far as I know, Warlocks don't get it at all. And to be honest, Restoration, Radiant, Devour, and Surging Spark, or whatever it's called, from Spark of Resilience is way better, or Spark of Resistance. It's just way better, easier to proc, because most of the stuff for the Woven Mail that you have to use to proc requires you to do things that are a lot harder, like defeat suspended enemies or defeat tangled enemies, and those don't always proc immediately or right away. And the abilities have such a high cooldown, it's really hard to just keep it up at all times. As I said, the grapple is just a grapple. It doesn't do damage. So the grapple is literally just a movement cue. The only ability that you actually have that can deal damage is a melee. And the Warlocks, for instance, have 3 charges on your melee, but they're at the fastest melee reduction. So at tier 10 strength, it has a 1-minute cooldown per charge. So you're never going to have full charges of melee. As soon as you spawn into a mission or into a raid or a strike or anything, you're going to be no melees for majority of the time. And as soon as you get one, you're going to use it up right away. But the story was heavily dictated around the subclass, and it gave you very unrealistic expectations for the subclass because of the super high, fast recharge rates and the spammability of the abilities and all the attacks and stuff, and it made it seem very strong. But the damage numbers aren't hitting as hard at all. The Warlock one is just basically good for ad clear and literally nothing else. It doesn't do very good damage when it comes to bosses. The Hunter one is good for damage against bosses, but now that you have to be right up and close in the face of the boss, you're going to be risking getting destroyed now that you have 10% less resilience than you did before. And then the Titan one is just another Berserker roaming super. It does have a kind of like a mid-ranged projectile that it can throw out, but the damage numbers are kind of the same as the Hunters. They're still higher than the Warlocks, I'm pretty sure, but they're still not the best. They're still outclassed by regular light-based supers. Now, maybe this changes once the raid is, completed and they give us the other aspects and fragments. I don't know. But until then, it is not looking good. So because of the story being heavily strand-focused and kind of just like a training thing, as well as the writing was terrible, Nimbus was very corny. They also pushed in like the dev insights and the trailers and stuff of this game, talking about the Cloud Striders and this secret civilization and that we knew nothing about and stuff like that. That is a vast, empty desert landscape of nothing. There is no people there. There's 2 people in the entire thing, and it is literally Nimbus and Rohan, the Cloud Striders. The only 2 Cloud Striders on the planet, by the way. There are no other Cloud Striders, even though they talk as if there is. There's not. You do not see them ever. And Nimbus is very corny and terribly written. It's a bunch of comedy where comedy shouldn't necessarily be inserted at times, and you can't really take them seriously, and they don't even seem to take themselves seriously or any of the situation. It's almost like Marvel comedy is what I would call it, where the superheroes are over here facing Thanos, and Thanos is about to get the Infinity Gauntlet and wipe out all of or half the universe, but they're still having time to make Squidward references to SpongeBob and stuff as jokes. It's hard for there to be a heaviness to the scenes and stuff. They made Osiris to be kind of like just rude, obnoxious, and annoying, and more of like a chore to even deal with. Like every single one of his lines, it was just him being mad for some reason, and that was also annoying because that's generally not who Osiris is. They try to set you up with these like suspenseful moments, but then they turn around and kind of make lightheart of it, or just pretend like nothing even happened like the second after it happens, and it's very it throws you off. It throws you off pretty bad, and I would say that kind of is a detriment to the story and the narrative as a whole. This is the second to last expansion in Destiny 2 for this saga. Now, I don't know if they're going to make a Destiny 3. They haven't said anything about it. They've said once before they didn't want to make a Destiny 3, but they were saying that they were going to be driving the game to a ending of the Light and Darkness saga to a transformative state. We don't know what that means yet. But the last 2 expansions for the Light and Darkness saga was Lightfall and then the Final Shape, which will be next year. For this to be the second to last expansion, we got 0 information about the Witness. We got 0 information about Callus and how he got his powers or things that the Witness had given him, why he's really doing what he's doing. And it was fast paced in terms of like the story was going, and the pacing was just bad. We were left with more questions than we were answers. And because of that, I gave the story/narrative a 7. Now, I'm doing a grading scale out of 10. The only reason it gets a 7 is because I had fun playing it. And even though it was heavily Strand focused and you couldn't really do anything much, you also couldn't even use Strand as a subclass throughout the entire thing. I give it a 7 just because it was fun to do, or it was fun to play. I had fun, But I will say, the enemies and stuff and the missions themselves need some work. Callus was amazing. The Callus was, spoiler alert, Callus is the final boss at the end. I'm sure most of you have already played it and knew that by now. And if you didn't, he is the final boss. And what they did for his boss fight was great. I loved it. I loved it. I want more bosses similar to that. I'm tired of all the health gating stuff that they do with bosses all the time. I'm tired of all the stupid puzzles that they want you to solve in between a boss fight while they sit there and stack 600 million ads inside the room with you that you have to sit there and try and topple around or add clear and run out of ammo and stuff. I'm tired of boss fights like that. What they did with Callus's fight was amazing, and I love it, and they need to keep doing stuff like that. But yeah, overall it was good. The Tormentors, the new enemy type, those are awesome. I love them. Please add more creatures similar to that. Please add more enemies similar to that. Give them telegraphed moves. Make it feel more like an action RPG or an action MMO or something like that. Don't make it look just like a stealth shooter game or like a dungeon crawler or like Doom. Don't make it like that. I want something more I want something that seems like I'm actually in a movie myself kind of thing. You know what I mean? Next, I have multiplayer. I felt like this was a good topic to cover with Destiny because, of course, it is a massive multiplayer game. So I gave it a 5. And the only reason why I'm giving it a 5 is because they still have not implemented their LFG. They still don't have matchmaking for raids. They still don't have the best of matchmaking and stuff in terms of PvP. They still have PvP issues. They still have issues with other multiplayer aspects that they need to cover, like making Gambit better and stuff that they tried to do. I agree that they did make it better, but they didn't make it the best, so it's still pretty bad. But there's a lot. There's a lot. And, I just want that to be addressed, It's terrible. But overall, generally, it gets a 5. Destiny's a good multiplayer game. It is. I do think, though, it's not friendly to solo players at all. So if you're a solo player, you need to get friends. It's not friendly for that at all. I also feel like the 3-person fire teams need to be updated. It is very difficult in today's standards to just have a trio play games together. For instance, we had 4 of us. We had 4 of us that were wanting to play the game at once, but you can't play more than 3 people in the story mode. Half the content in the game you can't play with more than 3 people to begin with. Strikes, Nightfalls, all that stuff. So we suffer by having, a large friend group because we can't all play together. Next is quality of life. So this is a big one. They made a lot of quality of life changes in Lightfall. Some were good, some not so much, according to other people. I personally was not mad about any of them. They did a lot of balance changing. They did a lot of minor improvements and bug fixes and stuff, which were pretty good. They changed the armor system, which I loved. Oh my goodness, I love the new armor mod system. It is so good. It is so good. I see a lot of people hate it because they said it's too simplified. It's, they miss the older complex system and stuff. But the problem is with quality of life, you have to be able to be friendly to new players. I sat here today and watched Tim the Tapman, who has not played Destiny since it was on BattleNet, according to him. And he had to make a brand new character, and it took him 4 hours to complete the New Light quest. 4 hours. So it took him 4 hours just to get to a point to where he could play Lightfall. And even after that, he was struggling because either he would not read the tooltips that he was supposed to, or he just didn't know all the systems and stuff. That didn't explain the armor mod system to him. It didn't explain the weapon infusion system to him. He had no idea what he was doing for majority of the time, and his chat had to explain it to him. Or when somebody got on that was more experienced, they had to explain it to him, like what he should be doing, what he shouldn't be doing, and stuff. And that's something that needs to be addressed for new players. But at the same time, every time you come out with a new expansion, stop giving the exact same tooltips to veteran players over and over and over like you did with Witch Queen, and you did it again this time as well. There was less of them this time, but it was still annoying. Other quality of life issues that I had with it. Destiny is an old game. It is old. It is over, 10, it's going on 10 years old now, I think. They need to update the engine. I'm sorry. Even Fortnite updated to Unreal Engine 5. Destiny is still sitting here in an old engine, and the graphics are just not holding up to standard issue stuff, and your cutscenes are in 30 FPS. What? How are we in a generation of next-gen consoles and everything runs in 4K and you only have 30 FPS to give in cutscenes? You were literally bought by Sony. You have the money. You have the equipment. You have all the resources. Make them 60 FPS at least. But I wanted to give it a 5 for quality of life. I did. I really did, because the lack of an updated engine, and we're still running in the same engine. All of the textures and stuff on everything looks the exact same. It doesn't seem like it ever changes between different objects and items and stuff. So with that being said, it's so annoying. But they've changed the armors stuff. It now no longer has energy types. They've simplified the mods up a bit, making it much easier, much better, in my opinion. To all the people who think that that's not good, that they miss the complexity of builds and stuff, I don't care what you have to say about it. You're dumb. Like, I don't mean it that way. I'm just saying you need something that is simple and easy for new players to pick up on. Now, if they want to combine stuff into there from here, that's fine. But this is a level that we're at. Like, not everybody had all the mods, first of all. And then all the ones that did have the mods and stuff, like, they go through there and they look at, oh, what's this charged with light modifiers doing with this elemental wells stacking on, with ionic traces stacking on, with this and with warp mines. How do I do all this? Like, that is so complicated for no reason. New players don't need to worry about all that. But I gave it a 7 for quality of life. Lastly, value. How valuable is this game? Destiny is free to play. Destiny 2 is free to play. On PC, at least. I think it's also free to play on consoles. I'm not sure on that. But it's free to play on PC. But the content it offers for free, it's not there. It's not there. It lacks value for the free to play content, in my opinion, because all the free to play content is not very repetitive or repeatable in my own honest opinion. As somebody who, like I said, I only have about 1,500 hours in this game, and after I've run about 3 strikes, I am done. I am literally done with strikes. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm bored. I'm tired of it. I'm tired. So after I get my pinnacle drop, that is it. I'm out the freaking door. I'm never touching strikes for the rest of the game. Same thing with Nightfalls. As soon as I get my drop that I'm wanting, or as soon as I get my pinnacle or something, I'm not grinding the Nightfall. That's too much. It's too annoying to sit there and redo it over and over and over again. Crucible is about the only part of it that's semi even worth like grinding, I guess, in terms of just you don't really run out of something to do because it's Crucible. It's just a PvP aspect. It's the only part that's really repetitive enough that you can actually keep playing it and not get too annoyed with it. But the balancing system of the game is terrible, so if you have bad games and stuff and don't have good gear, you're just going to get absolutely washed by people who are way better at the game than you. And Gambit, again, it's like 3 matches and you're done. And then the seasonal content, once you've done like 2 or 3, 4 runs of that, you're done with it too, but especially because most of the seasonal content has quests that just make you go back and repeat it over and over and over at least 3 to 4 times each week. That is so stupid of a quest line, and you know it, Bungie. You know we hate it, but you refuse to change it. Lastly, Witch Queen released. If I'm not mistaken, when Witch Queen released, I believe it was $40. Do not quote me on this because I don't remember entirely. But I do remember it was a known staple that most of Bungie's, or most of Destiny 2's content expansions were $40. It was like that in Destiny 1. Everything was $40 on release. And I believe it was like that for Destiny 2 as well. Unless you bought the deluxe edition. This one was $50 But the campaign was worse than Witch Queen, shorter than Witch Queen, and all the new stuff that it added in terms of story elements and abilities and powers and all that kind of stuff and weapons was lackluster and reused. Most of these weapons were from Shadowkeep, I'm pretty sure. Like, just reskinned. Like, some of them really do look like, I think the grenade launcher, in fact, looks just like the Shadowkeep grenade launcher, the heavy GL, and it's just reskinned. It's just a lot of reused, reskinned stuff. And again, you know, they were just bought out by a huge company. So, like, why are they sitting here, you know, not or acting like they don't have the resources to do all this stuff? You know, and this just goes back to like world design, quality of life, and story and narrative and stuff. The city Neomuna, which is the new city on Neptune, it's like this giant skyscraper city and stuff. And all the trailers you see it, and they're talking about it's like a city under siege and stuff. It was empty. You rarely saw any enemies as you're walking around. It was empty. The map itself was very small and tight, compact. They make it look like giant skyscrapers all over the place, but you're mostly just on a road the entire time. It's just one giant road that just makes a loop around the map. It's not, there's no skyscrapers. There's nothing. There is like maybe 3 or 4 parts in the entire map where you can, quote unquote, fall off through the clouds where the skyscrapers are. But other than that, there's nothing there. And it's just, it's not good. It was, their marketing team did phenomenal, like way up here with marketing, like way the heck up here. And then the expectations versus reality just brought it straight down to the ground. Like, it was not good at all. But again, I had fun playing it. It's got all the new content in it and stuff. So if you're excited to play the new content and stuff, you know, you'll look forward to it. I gave it a 6 for value. So for those of you keeping score at home, that is story and narrative rated at a 7, multiplayer rated at a 5, quality of life at a 7, and value at a 6 for a whopping overall of 6.5 out of 10. It's not a terrible game, but it did not meet the expectations of majority of the fans out there. And that's the biggest detriment to the whole thing, is that it did not meet our expectations. But hopefully they get that fixed in the future. I'm optimistic. I haven't played the seasonal content, as I said, but usually the seasonal content is just repetitive and it doesn't actually cover very much good story or narrative aspects. It just kind of progresses the next seasonal content. So, I mean, that's just where it's at. That's the state. That's what I would call the state of the game. You know, they do their whole state of the game thing all the time, but it doesn't cover the whole thing. This is a genuine talk about the entire in-depth, mostly spoiler-free review of Lightfall. And I wanted to be as unbiased as possible. But I'm still leaning towards the good side of it because I enjoy the game. But it really didn't meet the hype that it was set for. Maybe the raid can change it. Maybe the dungeon that releases later can change it. Maybe the other dungeon. Maybe the other raid. I don't know. But for now, it's just not it. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully I can get this synced up since I'm not using my regular camera through OBS, and instead I'm using my phone camera and stuff. So hopefully I can sync these up like I should be able to. And maybe I won't be off sync with my lip sync and stuff and all that. But yeah, guys, thank you so much. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, and stuff. Let me know what you looked forward to and what was met, what wasn't met as far as your expectations go. And let me know, just let me know how you feel currently about Lightfall. Do you think what I said was right? Would you give it a higher rating, a lower rating? Let me know. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Laters.